Hello, Lady C. Welcome to PDina. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, my dear. How are you? Lovely to be here again.
I'm so happy that you have joined me today. So, as you know, I have been reading the different chapters of your book, and it's taken me forever to get to the last chapter because of all of the recent news that has been happening. So, what I would like to do is to just kind of talk about the last chapter 12 because it really is very relevant to all of the things that we are seeing today in terms of your analysis of what you say, what will happen with this couple. And I think we could tie in a little bit about what you said and a little bit about what we see going on to this. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you talk about, um, this is related to politics, but I won't really go into politics much. But you say here that there have been rumors that Bill Gates might run for president. There, there have been rumors that Bill Gates might run for president in 2024 or even 2028. Now, if that is so, it will only be a matter of time before some journalists sympathetic to the successes, I can never say the successes. Can you say it for me?
Sussexes.
Sussexes, thank you, suggests Meghan as a running mate. Now, how do you feel about that? Do you still feel this way after having written that? I mean, it still is prevalent in terms of Meghan running for president, which I think is nonsense. But what do you think about that?
Well, I think there's little doubt that Meghan has huge ambitions, including in the political sphere. And if she can, she will. Of course, she may turn out to be a Kanye West sort of candidate. But I think if she can do it, she will. And if she can position herself to be with, latch on to someone who will further her interests, I think she will gladly do it. Meghan's very adept at strategically placing herself where she can bring out the best succubus in her nature as she latches on to whomever it is that she's going to suck the blood of and have enhance her posture and credibility.
So, do you think that she's definitely working with the Bill Gates people and others of such high caliber to position herself with this?
Well, when I wrote the book, remember, the Sussexes, when I started writing the book, the Sussexes had not left the royal family. They left 6 weeks before I finished the book, because I pretty much finished the book and had to redo it because of their departure. So things have changed a little bit since then. And my information was that she had attached herself to the Gateses. And indeed, it turned out she had, because, she and Harry were given gratis Bill and Melinda Gates. Catherine Saint Laurent, who became their chief of staff, so to speak, who has just left. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that right there tells me that the Gates connection is weakening, not strengthening. But, a lot can happen in a year, and a lot has happened in a year.
That is very interesting, yeah.
But I wouldn't put it, but I still maintain that if she can get mileage out of anybody, she's going to attach herself to that person. And I think, though, that what has happened with the Oprah interview is that Meghan and Harry have overplayed their hand. They have shown themselves to be disloyal to the royal family. That means to the British establishment. That means that any serious heavy hitter, whether it's Bill Gates or the Obamas, will be very skeptical of attaching themselves to people of such dubious character. because ultimately nobody wants to be batting on the side of Judas Iscariot when they can be batting on the side of Jesus Christ. Let's put it that way.
Do you think, though, that the American people see that? I think they don't see how she has dissed the royals because she's playing more into the race issue, right?
Well, but this, of course, is precisely how she has dissed the royals and dissed the British people by fabricating, a racial issue that does not and has never existed. So, but people of the stature of Bill and Melinda Gates and Barack and Michelle Obama are not blind to what Meghan and Harry are trying to do. But I would be very surprised if they are going to regard it as desirable for them to have close continuing relations. Let us see. I mean, if they can get mileage out of it, they will. Because ultimately, we're speaking about a world where it's dog eat dog and use and be used. And, these are heavy-hitting power players. And they are not going to sully their brand because of any sense of that Meghan is playing the sympathy card. I mean, it's ludicrous, Basically, they're interested in Meghan and Harry because of the royal connection.
Right.
And if they could then get something more out of it, and if Meghan could have turned out to be somebody who was going to be a very heavy-hitting person professionally in terms of politics, then yes, of course, they would have gone with it. But I would be very, very surprised if they're going to go with a divisive version of the rhetoric that Meghan and Harry have been purveying via Oprah.
Okay, but do you think that people that see what Meghan and Harry are doing, like especially the American people, they look at her as being in the right? And I think anyone who is an American power hitter, so like you say, they are going to want to do what the American people are pro. And that looks like they're pro Meghan because they feel like she's a victim of racism. And I know Michelle Obama, she was very careful in her statement, about putting family first. So I don't know. I'm skeptical on how that will happen. I think people are going to lean towards Meghan only because they want to have the people on their side.
Well, the American people, some of them might be duped by what is going on, but I have got literally tens of thousands of comments from Americans, many of whom are people of color and identify themselves as such, who are dead against what's going on and who can see right through Meghan.
That's interesting because I haven't seen that. I have seen a lot of people that are Black, especially in the media here, that are very pro Meghan. Like the news people that I usually listen to, they are really baffled at how she was treated by the royal family. They are appalled at it. And I think it's setting a tone that the royals are racist, get rid of the Commonwealth.
We're speaking about two completely different things. I'm speaking about the American people. You are speaking about American news commentators.
Right, but they have an influence on the American people. They're the ones that are influencing the narrative of what.
Yes, but my point is that despite their influence, I have received tens of thousands of communications from people of color in America who say they're not buying the lie.
Okay.
So just because People Magazine and Vanity Fair are sort of following the party line, so to speak, doesn't mean that the average American person is duped. I have a lot more faith in the average person's intelligence than than maybe you do, because I actually do not. I know that the rhetoric in America at the moment is that, Meghan was mistreated by the royal family, even though, but that is put out by Meghan, Harry, and their PR people. And it is furthered by the tame American media. And in my book, I do make the point that by and large in America, people in the media will do cut and paste jobs that PRs issue, which does not happen in England, because in England, journalists take pride in scrutinizing and using their minds. In America, they use cut and paste. And so this is an advantage that Meghan and Harry have at the moment. But do not for a second think that unless it is going to suit people like Bill and Melinda Gates or Barack and Michelle Obama to go with such a divisive, racist agenda, that they are going to ultimately align themselves with that shade of politicking. They're not going to align themselves with it. Michelle Obama has already distanced herself from Meghan and Harry. You notice she was very careful when they asked her. She was very careful to say that she wasn't surprised that the subject of a race came up, but she was very careful to make sure that she didn't accuse the royal family of racism or the British people of racism.
Yeah, that's true. Now, Serena Williams, though, on the other hand, has applauded Meghan for how she behaved, and what she did was brave. She was very well poised in what she has stood up against.
Well, with due respect, Serena Williams is a very successful tennis player. I do not recall that she actually is anybody of any note in any other way. So, it's the danger with listening to celebrities and famous people just because they're famous. But I think the average American person, I've been getting a lot of comments from the public in America to the effect that they're sick and tired of listening to celebrities and Hollywood people telling them what to think and how to behave and what to believe, and that they're starting to use their own brains, which is, of course, exactly what they should have been doing all along.
Exactly.
And I'm delighted that they're doing it now.
Right. Well, I get a lot of people, I guess, Black people, accusing me of, being hard on Meghan, and that they think that the royals are acting as racist. And I don't know why they are attacking me when I'm simply talking about her character. I don't know, there's a big divide, I guess, here with the political and the higher ups and the average American. She's definitely created issues, as if we didn't already have enough issues here in America.
She has capitalized upon race issues that were improving and has come them back at least a generation. She is divisive and she is mischievous. I have got comments from people, oh, you're Jamaican, and because you're Jamaican, you shouldn't say anything against people of color.
That's what I get,
sorry. First of all, even if I had been a Black Jamaican instead of a white Jamaican, I'm sorry, a thief is a thief irrespective of his or her color. Right. Give me a break, Right. I do not for a second buy this nonsense of that, where, for instance, the African leaders used to completely ignore the fact that Mugabe was ravishing their country. and turned the breadbasket of Africa into a poverty-stricken nation so that he and his wife could end up having billions of dollars in Switzerland. I'm sorry, if if you're evil and you're black, you're evil. If you're evil and you're white, you're evil. Color has nothing to do with it.
Right.
And these people need to just, they need to start a list of the Martin Luther Kings and Morgan Freeman of this world and stop being obsessed about the fact that no black person deserves a pass just because of the color of his or her skin, any more than a white person deserves it. If you are badly behaved, you should be called to account. It's as simple as that.
It really is.
Anybody who feels differently is a proto-racist, if not an actual racist.
Yes, and I agree exactly with you about that, because that's what makes sense. I mean, it's ridiculous that anyone should not see what is happening here. And I'm hoping that the higher ups, those people who know that she is completely toxic, will start to sway the narrative, that the majority of the American people can see that what this woman is actually doing is dividing our country. We have a big case going on now with George Floyd. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's in the news every day. And Meghan doing what she is doing, trying to call out the royals for being racist, and also threatening to release another 90 minutes of things that were not in the original Oprah interview. It's just going to make things so much more heightened to accuse the royals of this, to be so, I don't know, divisive in our country during this time with this case that is really going to have significant backlash if this police officer is let go. And I'm just very scared for our country, because it's very heightened right now, the racism. And I think people who are up in power need to really denounce this behavior of Meghan. And I'm glad that Michelle Obama did what she did when she was not so, direct.
You see, my dear, an awful lot of people are not as intelligent, sophisticated, evolved as you are. Mm-hmm. And as far as they're concerned, it's, if you're one color, stick together. If you're another color, stick together. Well, that's what caused racism against Black people. So why should Black people be doing it against white people? It doesn't make sense. The whole thing is ludicrous. And the George Floyd situation is extremely regrettable. The whole thing is completely regrettable. But I am very mindful of the fact that it is my duty as somebody who believes in the rule of law, that when you are being tried for a serious crime, you are innocent until proven guilty. And it is not up to me to try to influence the outcome one way or the other. In life, if we believe in freedom, we need to understand that freedoms have responsibilities, and that if you are not constructive, you are being destructive. Because even if you are silent in the face of destructiveness, you are colluding.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just summed up, I think, Meghan pretty well. I mean, because that's what she's doing. She's being destructive, right? And let's switch to what you said in your book also about, you said, if anyone should fall by the wayside, it will be Harry. And you really are concerned about him. Tell me a little bit about that, because I see it getting much worse for him, considering, he's living in California now. He's lost everything. And how do you see that playing out?
I mean, when I wrote the book, people were very concerned who loved Harry, that she had him completely under her thumb and in her thrall. And remember, when I started writing the book, they had not left the country.
Right.
That they were very concerned that she was ultimately going to destroy Harry, that she was isolating him. She was packing up his head with a whole load of nonsense, which by his own admission in the Oprah interview she has done, Like he didn't know he was trapped until she pointed it out to him. Like he's a Stockholm victim, Stockholm syndrome victim. And like it's the Meghan cult, and Harry is her number one follower. This is really very sick stuff. And people were very concerned about it because they know Harry's psychological issues, and they also could see Meghan's character, and they could see that Meghan was going to milk and exploit the situation as she was doing. That's how I came to write the book. People complained to me about the fact that Meghan was behind the scenes cutting financial deals, interfering with things she had no right to interfere with, just generally being divisive and destructive. And people were concerned, and they're still very concerned, but Harry is ultimately an adult. He's ultimately not declared insane, and therefore is responsible for his actions. And things have moved on in the 2 years since I started writing the book, and in the year since they left, and since I finished writing the book a year ago. And people have, things have moved on since then. And Harry has done things that he needs to accept responsibility for. And basically, ultimately, it's his decision, and he has to accept the consequences, even though people who love him are very concerned about what the outcome ultimately will be. And they're concerned about, the changes in him and what the result will ultimately be. Of course, they're very concerned. They love Harry, And if say your child was an alcoholic or a drug addict, and you see him, destroying himself with alcohol or drugs, it doesn't mean you don't love the child. Of course, you're very concerned about it. Well, Harry's addicted to Meghan. It's as simple as that. His drug of choice is Meghan.
Yes. And so
Meghan's drug of choice is fame and fortune. So,
and will he go to the UK, you think, in July for the unveiling of the statue of his mother?
I don't believe in making predictions, but I think it's going to be very convenient that the baby is due around that time, and let us see what happens. I don't believe in making predictions. And I would prefer not to make predictions, but I think whatever the outcome, it's going to be very interesting. Let me put it that way.
So without making a prediction, though, what do you think his life will be like when he goes back to visit, in terms of how people will welcome him? Because we certainly know how the British people feel right now about Harry and his choices. I'm not so sure that he will be very welcomed. At least I've heard from people on the radio in Great Britain about, their dislike for the things he's done.
Irrespective of what the American news commentators are trying to say, the British people are up in arms, and they are outraged that Meghan and Harry have unfairly accused them of racism. And so are the members of the royal family. So Harry is going to be Judas Iscariot returning to the Christian fold, instead of having done the decent thing and hanged himself, which is what Judas did. I'm not suggesting that Harry should hang himself.
Symbolically, I know what you mean, yes.
But metaphorically, he could actually, but he's not going to, because Harry, as I've said, is addicted to Meghan, and everybody knows he's addicted to Meghan. And the one thing they teach in AA and Al-Anon is never try to come between an alcoholic and his bottle. He'll only die when you can say boo. So
okay, so when so speaking of how the family will take to Harry when he's back. Hopefully he'll go back to see his family, because we know Prince Philip he needs to see his grandfather, right? How will the gloves be with Harry? Like, are they going to be very careful with how they speak to him, or is it going to be more stern and let's get you help, you're destroying our family? Like, what could they do now? The royal family.
The royal family is a lot more sophisticated and psychologically evolved than the public seems to be aware of. Prince Philip's aunt, his aunt Mary, was one of the great psychoanalysts of the 20th century. She was trained by Freud. She's the person who paid to get Freud out of Vienna and went to Vienna and escorted him out of Vienna. They're a very sophisticated family. They are very tuned up and clued up where psychology is concerned. Nobody's going to be, trying to force Harry to do anything. And they're going to behave as all well-bred people do. They're going to treat him with as much respect as they can,
right,
with as much caution as the situation deserves, and they are going to try to have as peaceable a relationship with him for the duration of the time that he is in their presence as possible, hoping that everything will just be civil. And people need to understand, if you deal with very disturbed people, and I unfortunately have a great deal of personal experience with it, you need to have patience, and you need to have a delicate touch. And you do not go in like gangbusters, and they're not going to be going in like gangbusters.
They're not going to go in there and read him a riot act and say, Harry, what have you done?
No, I'd be very surprised if, of course, if he pushes his luck, and people do have a breaking point, and when they break, they will speak the truth.
Well, but do you?
Harry has been well known in his personal circles to be the one who was always sort of snapping and putting dramas and hysterics and basically getting his own way through bad behavior. Well, that's people. When you deal with somebody like that, you learn to be very measured, but there will come a point one of these days when Harry will press the wrong button.
But I would think that he's already done that with what he's done by going on Oprah. I can only imagine him getting really in a lot of trouble. I mean, them speaking to him in a way that he's never heard before.
No, that's not how that's how you treat a child.
But he is like a child.
He's batting 40. He's middle-aged.
Yeah.
That's not how you treat a child. That's not how you treat an adult. That's how you treat a child. He's not a child, and he needs to be treated with the respect that is due an adult, irrespective of whether you agree with what he's doing or not. So, civilized people allow somebody to, they give people enough rope to hang themselves.
Yeah.
To put it in 12-step terms, they allow them they let go and let God, and they allow them to hit their natural bottom.
So they know he's doing it all to himself. They're allowing him to just continue to do what he's doing because he's ultimately hurting himself.
Well, no, because also, he's hurting them. He's hurting the British people. He's not only hurting himself, but, he is an adult, and unless he has been certified insane, he has rights that need to be respected, and civilized people respect the rights of others. It's as simple as that.
But
even if you don't agree with what the person is. Also, the family now needs to be very careful of what they say, because anything they say is misinterpreted and
yep.
twisted, lied about, weaponized, and presented to the American people as if it's racist. So the family is going to be very, very careful, as are his friends. Everybody's going to be very careful because they know that Harry is untrustworthy.
They know that from what Gail said about the conversation. That was very, very wrong for her to say how the conversations have went. So you're referencing that, how they have completely let the personal conversation come out into the open airways, right? As
Well,
if they felt.
both he and Meghan have twisted perfectly ordinary conversations that were constructive or in his interest or perfectly normal, and they have weaponized them and misattributed motives which were not there. And everybody now knows, be very careful what you say to Harry. So Meghan has isolated Harry, and Harry has isolated himself further by showing that he is batting on Meghan's team, and that he will weaponize and destroy anybody. The British people, the British royal family, his loved ones, he doesn't care. He is so eager to keep in with her that, and you could see in the Oprah interview that some of what she said he did not agree with. It was quite apparent. And what he overtly didn't agree with, he never clawed back. For instance, the important timing of the supposed conversation, which he says, and I have been told, took place before the marriage and had absolutely nothing to do with color, while Meghan was having it when she was pregnant, and it helped to make her suicidal.
This is what I say. Get my violin out and play.
Then she, however, I'm going to go to the Albert Hall and I'm just going to show everybody what a wow I am. Please to meet you. Oh.
It's so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And I am just, at this point, I just feel like this is going to not end well for Harry. I can see it happening because everything that they are taking and twisting around and weaponizing, like you're saying, is on purpose. I think it's deliberate. It's coming from Meghan, and she's out to destroy everyone for self gain.
Because she believes that the way to become a huge figure of influence internationally and in America is by behaving destructively. But she's moved too quickly, and she's moved too soon, and she's moved too overtly. Had she done it later on, when her support was firmer, she would have stood a better chance of success. My own feeling is that, notwithstanding what the American news commentators are saying, that the real heavy hitters and the general public in America, and I include a lot of people of color in this number, have seen right through Meghan, and they don't want to know. They think she is a hustler. They think she is an ambitious, disloyal troublemaker who will say and do anything to promote herself and doesn't care at whose expense it is. She's going to need an awful lot of votes if she is going to be voted into power in any way, shape, or form. And I think she has revealed her hand too soon, and it's filled with twos and threes and fours.
Okay.
While everybody else's hand has kings, queens, aces, and high numbers like 9 and 10. She's not going to win. I
It's not
don't.
going to win. So ending it here, Lady C. So would it be safe to say, ultimately, Meghan is not going to prevail in what she had originally sought out to do? That's what I'm starting to see. That's what it looks like. I think she may have done damage to the royal family and the Commonwealth, because there's talks now about getting rid of the Commonwealth because of the racism. It's news over here. I don't know
Yes,
what will happen.
well, that is, I have to tell you, that's very heavily slanted by the pro-Meghanists, because the fact of the matter is, by and large, the Commonwealth have fallen right behind the Queen, because they know that the Queen and Prince Philip have dedicated 70 years of their lives to the Commonwealth and to improved race relations.
Right.
And there might be one or two commentators who are trying to capitalize for their own professional reasons. But by and large, that's not the scenario. It's, no, I think that that Meghan has overplayed her hand. I said it in my book. Meghan is a small-time operator in a big-time game, and she doesn't understand how the game is played and what you need to do. Meghan thinks that if she's going to enter politics, or she's going to become a huge figure in America by playing the race card and everybody pitying her, who's going to vote for her? If she has a serious position, who's going to listen to her? I mean, unless she decides she's going to go down the Oprah route and become an interviewer, who's going to take her seriously? And at least, with Oprah, people thought she had empathy. Everybody knows, except her supporters, that Meghan has none. You know, how is Meghan going to be able to be even a good interviewer? I think she's really made a hash of it. And they can throw as much money as they want at it. I think that more and more people in America will ultimately see her for what she is, which is a divisive opportunist, a hustler, an operator par excellence, who has no real feeling for the greater good. She's completely motivated by fame and fortune.
And people are seeing that now. They're seeing it. And I'm happy to see that. I mean, I'm hoping that will continue.
Certainly the tens of thousands of people of color who have been in touch with me are seeing it. And that's aside from the hundreds of thousands of others.
Well, they should be calling me and telling me the same thing instead of ragging on me all the time, it seems.
Yeah, but you see, I think that our situations are different. You're American. You're a woman of color, but you're not unique. There's you, there's Candace Owens, you know, there's Rose Hulse, who is a beautiful Black girl married to the grandson of a baronet, mother of 2 lovely children. You know, there are loads of people of color who say, no, sorry, Meghan, no, this is not how you behave. And, you know, if you had been the victim of prejudice, stay and fight it out. Don't leave and lie.
Yes. And that's what she's doing. Well, I we'll have to wait and see. I'm thinking that things are, hopefully they won't continue to get as ugly, and people will start to ignore her nonsense, because someone that looks like her can't possibly experience racism. She doesn't even look like a Black woman. I think it's all to her advantage to cry racism, and I hope that people will continue to see that. And I guess,
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, as you've just said, she doesn't look as if
no,
she, and not only that, any evidence that there was, she has expunged either through beauty products or the surgeon knife. And she passed
right,
for white for most of her life.
right,
And it's only when she discovered that it was going to be uh, useful to
right.
further her ambitions. That,
Hmm.
and I think this is outrageous
It
because
is.
she is opportunistically trivializing a very important issue, and
Right.
an issue that in my lifetime has been resolved in a much more positive way than it was at the beginning of my lifetime.
Mm,
And I think, even in America,
mm.
which was always the most racist of all of the Western
Yep.
states,
Hmm.
you've had a president of color elected with a landslide twice.
That's
He
right.
wasn't only elected by Black people, otherwise he wouldn't have got in. He was elected
Hmm.
by white people, not once, but twice.
Yep.
So, I mean, even in America, there have been huge strides made in race relations. And there is this mischief-making little hussy deciding for her own personal ambitions, she's going to pretend
Yep.
that she has
Had racism.
experienced. Where and when has she ever experienced racism?
Exactly.
She complains about the British people being racist. Tens of thousands of people lined the streets to see her get
Right.
married.
Right.
Millions of people looked at her. There was a Black choir. There was a Black priest.
Right.
Excuse me. I mean, what did she want them to do? Paint the pavements black as well?
Exactly. It's an insult. And it's an insult to Black people like myself who actually look Black, who have experienced racism. I look at her and it's like, you a white woman. Who's racist against you? It's like an insult to me. And it makes me, it's really upsetting because, like you said, she's using it to her own advantage, setting everything back in America, and it's appalling. And I just want to say thank you so much for writing your book because you have really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I otherwise would not have known. Very
And,
credible.
and may I say thank you very much for taking the measured, positive, constructive, and realistic stance that you do at all times. You are wholly to be admired.
Oh, thank
Wholly.
you. Thank you
You
so
are.
much.
And it's a pity that you didn't marry Harry instead of that rather ghastly creature that he married.
Thank you. I don't know if I would want to be in the royal family now, but there was a time I would have wanted to be in the royal family. But yeah, it's unfortunate that Meghan was the wrong Black woman that married, or supposed woman of color to
Can you
marry.
imagine? Can you imagine had she not been the hustler
Hmm.
and the ruthless opportunist and operator and greedy beyond compare that she is? Can you imagine if she had embraced the opportunity to do good for
Yes.
the hundreds of millions and billions of people? And can you imagine what an embodiment, what a role model she would have been,
Yes.
and how she would have ended up being the most revered woman on the planet.
Yes. But it was greed. It was self-entitlement. It's her ego. It has destroyed her chances of that ever happening. It's
But
gone.
I actually think she is part Aristophanes, part Shakespeare,
Mm.
and part Phaedo. So she's Greek tragedy,
Mm.
classical English drama, and 18th century French farce, all rolled into it. But what begs me is what a wasted opportunity it has been. You know, one of the comments I got recently from a Black Jamaican was that he would have been far better off marrying a nice, respectable Black girl from Brixton.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Unknown, yes.
You know, a girl with no privilege, but who was decent and who was genuinely Black, instead of this, you know, instead of this over milked cup of coffee.
Ladies, you have a way with words. You do. I am so astounded at how you put things into perspective. Like you bring it down a notch. Like, wow, I can really see that. You know, it's just that is such a good way of putting it. Over milked is what she is. I agree. Oh my goodness, you are such a delight. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I know you have to get going. You have a lot to do today, and I thank you for making time for me. And
my pleasure, my dear.
I can't wait, like I said, to come see you over in the UK. I'm going to come visit you. I promise you.
I will let you know. And come and stay.
Okay? Yes, and we'll do a video, and we'll do a great thing together when I come over, and we'll have some other things to talk about as well.
And by the way, you look absolutely lovely today. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So do you. Where are you off to right now? You going to another interview?
Yes.
Okay. You need to get going. So I'm going to let you go.
Okay. Yes. God bless you. Take care.
Okay. Thank you, sweetie. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.